You guys, I'm so excited about this whole video. So we'll just wait and see if we can get a couple of people going. Raise your hand if you have read Taking Charge of Your Fertility and tell me all about what you think about it. More people joining. You guys, I am so excited to have Jessie on here. She is in Australia. So, oh, and she's requesting to come in, so this is really exciting here. I'm so excited. So, I'm here in the United States. She's in Australia. It's Saturday night here, and in Australia, it's Sunday afternoon, right?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi. I made it.
I still can't get over that it's two totally different days right now for us.
I know. I'm literally in the future right now.
Yes. Tell us everything you've learned.
Wow. Where do I begin? For starters, I'm learning how to do an Instagram Live because this is the first time I have ever been on Instagram Live. So it's a little bit daunting.
Welcome. Hopefully
Thank
we'll have a
you.
really good crowd. We have a whole bunch of great people joining, so I think it'll be really good.
Amazing. Oh, that's so good. That's good. And here it's literally 12:30 p.m. in the middle of the day here. So very different vibe from you guys late at night over there.
Yep. So I live in southern Utah, which is interesting. It kind of, we have like the red dirt, so it has like an Australian feel, you know?
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. And so, but we're just starting into spring where you guys are kind of going into fall, right?
Yeah, we're literally, it's literally summer's just ended, although it's still like crazy hot. Like I'm literally sweating up a storm right now and it's the middle of the day. And I live in Queensland, which is like a super hot, it's like the hottest kind of area in Australia. And yeah, it's like, it's crazy hot. And I'm from New Zealand, which is a lot cooler. So I struggle. I swear I haven't acclimatized. I've been here for 6 years and I still haven't acclimatized. So struggling.
I came from a colder climate to the desert and I feel the same way. I still like, I don't get as cold when everybody else is cold, you know,
Yeah.
and I love the heat, but so I feel
Yeah.
you.
That's totally me. I'm like swimming in bikinis in winter and everyone's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, for me, this is actually still really warm. So
Yeah, it's no big deal.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so same thing. Cool. Okay, well, tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are and kind of what pen and paper fertility is.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Jessie Brebner. I'm actually a New Zealander, so I moved to Australia 6 years ago and I moved to Sydney. And I was there for, I think, 5 years. And then a year ago, I moved to Queensland. Probably, I think it was 2 years ago now, I read a book called Taking Charge of Your Fertility. I was at the time on the pill and I had actually I'd really put off going on the pill because I was really hesitant about going on it. And I had read a couple of books that had outlined like a few side effects that I really wasn't keen to take on. And sorry if you can hear that, there's like a plane going over my house right now, so it's a bit loud. So I'd read a couple of books about the side effects, but at the time I couldn't really see a better alternative. So I was like, well, you know, everyone else is on the pills, so I'm just going to do it because there doesn't really seem to be any other options at the moment for me. So I went on the pill. I was only on the pill for probably about maybe 10 months or so, but it was enough for me to realize that and this doesn't happen for everyone, you know, some people are fine with synthetic hormones, but for me, obviously, it just wasn't working out great because I honestly felt like I was in a brain fog like a lot of the time. And I was also getting like anxiety attacks where I would just suddenly like have these feelings of like extreme like doom and like fear, which is really abnormal for me. Like I've never really had anything like that in my life before. And so I was also getting really bad hyperpigmentation on my face, which is also known as melasma or the mask of
Melasma.
pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because I have quite an outdoors lifestyle and I'm in the sun a lot, it's obviously going to make anything like that worse.
It makes it
So,
worse. Totally.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, it makes it so much worse. And it got to the point where it was really visible, and I had like a lot of hyperpigmentation on my forehead and like a little mustache going on. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember
I
just
still,
looking,
so mine's still clearing up from
really,
my last pregnancy. Yeah.
really. Oh my God. Well, I can't see it. I can't see it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. But but I remember like just looking in the mirror one day and I was like, my face is being destroyed. My confidence is low. Like I just don't feel myself anymore. And I actually had a friend at the time who I worked with, a colleague, and I'd heard about this method, but because I didn't know anyone personally who was using it, I just kind of doubted a little bit. I was like, surely that's not a thing. Like,
Totally.
I don't know if that's really true. Like, it sounds a bit airy fairy, and I don't know about that. But anyway, I
Yeah.
somehow randomly happened to be talking about it with my amazing friend from my old workplace, and she mentioned that she had been using it successfully for over 2 years. And just hearing from someone else that, okay, they've been using it successfully for over 2 years, so it's obviously working great for them, gave me the confidence to look into it further. And so from there, I joined a Facebook group called the Fertility Awareness Method of Birth Control. I think that's right. I have to double check that, but I think that's what
Yeah.
it's called. Um, and that was amazing. Like, there were so many incredible people in that group, so many really experienced charters that were able to point me in the right direction, and that kind of pushed me off on the journey. So from there, I bought the book Taking Charge of Your Fertility by Tony Weschler, and I read that, like, I swear I read that in a couple of days, and it's a pretty big book. So
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Well, when I first bought this, and this has been years ago, like you see this book, and I mean it's
it's
hefty.
massive. Yeah,
And like for me, I was like, oh, this is going to be like a medical textbook
yeah,
and really intense. And it reads like a blog.
it's so
Like it
easy.
reads like,
Yep,
yes.
yeah,
And I
it's so,
loved
so
it. And it was
good.
so much information.
Yeah,
Yes. And so ever
totally.
since then, I've called this the Vagina Owner's Manual. I feel like
Yes.
this is what we should be handing 14-year-olds as they're going,
Yes.
through this. Why not start off on this, instead
I
of,
totally agree.
I love it. And
Totally,
it's,
totally
but I have to
agree.
tell people it looks big and it looks
I
intimidating
know.
and the charting even can look intimidating. It is so
Yeah,
easy and so fun to read. And the information is so like, I was like, oh my gosh, of course. Oh, this is,
yeah, yeah.
So
Seriously,
yeah.
it just blows your mind. And like you say,
Yes.
it fully should be a vagina owner's manual. Like, I cannot think of a better way
Yes.
to put it. Like, anyone
Hmm.
who has a vagina should really have a copy
Needs
of
this
that book.
book.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, like, just as you say, it blew my mind, like everything in there. Like, I could not believe that nobody had ever told me this before. I couldn't believe that I'd been through how many classes in high school at sex ed classes.
Yes.
Nobody
Hmm.
mentioned any of this.
No.
I honestly felt a little bit cheated when I read it. I was really shocked. And sorry, there's another plane going over my house because I live right under a flight path. So I don't know if you
Oh,
guys can
you're
hear
fine.
that, but yeah, anyway, so I read this book, Taking Charge of Your Fertility, and blew my mind. And from there, I got straight into it, and it was a bending curve. Like, I think when you haven't had to think about anything like that before, and you're suddenly learning about different types of cervical mucus and getting used to testing body temperature every morning and understanding what personally impacts those biomarkers of fertility for you. It's
Totally.
definitely a learning curve, and I think, yeah, and I think that was tough. But the biggest thing that helped me at that stage was being part of a really big online group, which is that Facebook group that I mentioned earlier. Just It just really helps. Like, obviously they're not qualified fertility awareness educators or anything, just having those people there to talk to made a big difference.
Totally.
And I think, sorry, I think my internet may be a little bit dodgy here. Sorry.
Yep, you're coming in and out there a little bit. You're clearing up now, though.
Okay. I'm just waiting for my internet to catch up. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Something that I love that you're doing though is the pen and paper charting. And while she's kind of getting that figured out, I'll talk about it a little bit.
I can
So in the book, are you there?
Outside. Hang on.
Mm-mm. Back. We'll see if she makes it back. But in the book, it talks about charting your cycle, and it talks about the 3 different signs that you have of fertility. And something that's cool about these signs is that you can easily tell any time of the month how fertile you are. And we're not ever taught that in school or in sex ed here in the United States or in New Zealand or Australia. It's not common knowledge that that's the case. And so charting, like Jessie does on pen and paper, helps us kind of see some of those signs. Are you back? Maybe. I always have to be right next to my router. I don't know if that helps. I don't know what your Wi-Fi situation is. Hopefully we get her back because this is an awesome discussion to have. Anyway, manual charting, and I can kind of show you, looks a lot like this. So you have all the days of the month kind of laid out. And a lot of people do this with an app. I've actually taken up, I love doing paper planning. And so paper charting is something that I love the idea of. I just think it's the coolest thing. And something that was pointed out to me a long time ago that I hadn't ever really thought of is that for us as women, our periods and our menstrual cycles are part of our vital signs. When you go into any doctor's appointment, you get there and they're going to menstrual cycle is, along with your pulse. Hopefully we get her back. And so it's a vital sign for us. And if we're not aware of when our last period was, if we're not aware of kind of what's going on with our cycle, and especially for women as they're going into wanting children or even becoming sexually active and not wanting children, it is so crucial for us to know what the signs of our fertility are, when we're fertile, realizing too, you can't necessarily get pregnant every single day of the month. A lot of people don't realize that. I know so many people who believe you can't get pregnant or that you can get pregnant every day of the month, or they think, oh, you can't get pregnant on your period, or, there's all these different myths. And when it comes down to it, we are not so simple as women have a 28-day cycle, and on day 14 they ovulate. It just doesn't go that way for everybody. And so there's things that you can do that Taking Towards Your Fertility talks about. You take your temperature every single day, and through your cycle, your basal, so your baseline temperature actually changes, which I find so fascinating. I think it's so interesting. And what's even cooler is your temperature goes up slightly as you ovulate and when you're pregnant. And so you can actually verify a pregnancy by manually charting. And there's apps that do this, but there is something about writing things down with pen and paper Something that Jessie mentioned when I talked to her is that she loves the mindfulness practice of it, the journaling aspect of it, which is something that I love about doing all my planning on paper and also all my charting on paper. So I think, yeah, you can totally use an app. And oh, here, Jessie's back. Hopefully, we get her back. Let's see. Hopefully, she's coming. It says waiting, so we'll see. Hey, Stacey. Are you back?
Sorry. I'm back.
You're
I don't know
totally
what
fine.
happened there.
We just make this up as
Sorry.
we go.
I have a feeling this may happen multiple times because normally my internet here is fine, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
We'll see. We'll just keep it
We'll
rolling. I can
see.
talk about this all day long. So I'll just fill in the
Good.
gaps and you just come and go
Thank
as you
you.
can.
Perfect.
Okay, well,
Perfect.
since we have you back, I've been talking a little bit about what the fertility awareness method is, and why
Awesome.
you like to do it on pen and paper.
Yep.
So how you kind of told us how you got started about with this. Why do you like paper charting over using an app? And what does your paper charting look like, I guess?
Yeah, sure. So for me personally, I find there's two benefits that I find for me personally. The first one is mindfulness. So I find that I'm quite mentally, I'm a very busy person. I've got a lot going on in my brain 99% of the time. And I find that writing things down has always been a really good way for me to let go of things and free up a little bit of mental space. And I find that simply the act of every night writing down what the day, making sure you've charted your basal body temperature, I find that really calming and soothing. And as strange as that sounds, I do find that writing is a mindfulness practice for
Totally.
myself. Yeah. And the other thing that I think is probably just as important is that I find it actually really cements your learning when you have to
Mhm.
write something down, because it essentially turns on the area of your brain responsible for learning, and it turns on the area of your brain that's responsible for remembering. So especially when you're first starting out with charting, I think writing it down physically on paper is a massive part of just speeding up the whole
Mhm.
learning process. So those are probably the key reasons that I really enjoy it. And on top of that as well, in my spare time, I'm a bit of an artist, and I like drawing, I like sketching, I like holding a pen in my hands, and I like working on something and seeing something grow. So at the end of the month, when I look back and I've got a beautiful chart that I've actually put time into and I'm proud of, and it's telling me things about my own body, that's something that is really rewarding for me personally.
Love that. Yes. Like I talked about, so even like my calendar, I do all my planning, all my calendaring on paper. And it's true. I remember it better. And same thing. I look back at a week, everything that I've accomplished, all the lists I've crossed off, all the, so I love that. I feel like we're seeing a renaissance back to that. People, we like to write things down and cross things off and make notes, and I do. I love the artistry of it, and I'm with you on the charting. I just apps are great, and if it takes kind of starting into an app to get you started on this, I think yeah, then start with an app. But it's just I love it on paper. So okay, talk to me. Let's see. What's been your personal experience? How long have you been charting? How well has this worked for you? I guess you said 2 years earlier, right? Good. Let's see. Would like do you recommend this to your friends? Why do you recommend this to your friends? How do you suggest they get started? So, how would you recommend getting started? Yes. Are you, so your video is lagging, so I'm not sure where you're at. Yes, okay, you're fine. I mean, we're talking from Australia to the United States, back to Australia. I mean, it's amazing that we can do this. So I think what I'm gonna do, oh, she left again, you guys. I know I'm so sad. So I have her responses to a lot of these questions. What I'm going to do is, I was going to do anyway, so I'm going to put them in a blog post so you can actually go through and read. The cool thing that she has that I'm so excited for to come out, she is working on a journal that is meant for fertility charting. And so it's going to come out here and no worries, Jessie. We're so glad we got to see it all. But she has a journal that she's coming out with, hopefully in the next couple months, where you can go through and chart everything. And so far, everything I've seen from her is absolutely beautiful. So I'm really excited. So if you've not gone and checked out her Instagram page, go look her up. It's Fertility Charting. I love everything that she's got going on, and I just cannot wait. And of course, as soon as her stuff's out, I'll definitely be announcing it as well. So for those of you that are just kind of joining or confused about what's going on, we are talking about taking charge of your fertility. And for a little bit, I was talking to Jessie from Fertility Charting about charting on pen and paper and just how wonderful of a mindful practice that is. How actually paper charting it really helps cement the education that you get from this. Like she said, and she's like, when you're trying to learn something, if you're writing it down and you're doing it manually, your brain's going to hang on to it better. And that is so true. And that holds true with fertility charting. And so, what that looks like for those of you who have never seen a fertility chart, let me find it in here. Okay, so this is like a really detailed one. So what you do is you have every single day of the month. These up here are actually your body temperatures. And so you have like a baseline for kind of where your midline is, right? And so I think this is, 98.6 is where the line is, right? So these are decimal points of your temperature. So you'll see where your temperature, so we have like, she took her temperature one morning and it was 98.3, 98.1, 98 point, and you can see with ovulation, a lot of times your temperature will go up, your cervix will move. So some of the things that I start to tell women as they're just venturing into fertility awareness is to start paying attention to your cervical mucus or cervical fluid. Some people can kind of stomach the word cervical fluid a little bit better than cervical mucus. So basically when you wipe, it's how slippery are you and what kind of consistency that is. So we've got a couple people commenting. Also find the apps are not personal enough, which can confuse you even more when you're trying to make sense of how your cycle works. Amen. For some reason, having it laid out like this with like every little thing, you cannot look at this on your phone. It's too small. And so I really, really like having it on a big piece of paper. And then you can look at the whole month as a whole. You can draw lines. as you're going, right? And it just lays it all out. So you really get to know your cycle. And it's the same reason, guys, Google Calendar. I just can't. I have a whole bunch of little dots on my calendar. I'm like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. I have to have a planner. I am just this way. So like paper planning, it's a renaissance, you guys. We're bringing it back. We're going back in time from digital to paper. But I'm all about it. It's so much more fun anyway. And there's stickers with paper planners. I'm sure we could do stickers with fertility charting. You can color code it. But it is. You cannot look at this on your phone as easily because I've tried doing, and I have an app on my phone. Like I've been really lazy lately. My husband has a vasectomy. So finally, male birth control, you guys, it's the dream. So I've been really lazy about charting my menstrual cycle lately. But I do pay attention. I do pay attention to it and I make notes. And so, but I honestly should probably get back to something like this because the thing that's cool with this is what you can start to do. You can take this as far as you want to. You can just do temperatures, you can just do cervical fluid, and you can just do, menstruation and cervical position, right? You can then start to write down symptoms you're having. You can then start to chart PMS. You can start to chart headaches. You can start to chart hunger. What's really interesting is I will start to find that I have 1 week out of the month where I'm super hungry, and I have 1 week out of the month where I'm not hungry at all. That started to sync up with like, oh, on this week of my menstrual cycle, that's my like hungry week. And same with my migraines. I was getting migraines at the exact same time during my menstrual cycle. So then I started to go, okay, what hormones peak at this part of my... So when you go into your doctor's office, you are now an expert on your own body. Like I was saying, I said earlier before, your period is one of your vital signs as a woman. When you go into any doctor's office, they are going to ask you, they're going to take your vitals. So they're going to do your blood pressure, they're going to do your pulse, they're going to take your temperature, and then they're going to say, when was your last period? When was your last menstrual cycle? So for us, our menstrual cycle is part of our vital signs. We need to know this stuff. And it's so sad to me because, like Jessie was saying, in school, they don't teach us what the signs of our fertile window is. They don't teach us, they just don't teach us enough about our menstrual cycle in a health class. And I don't know why. I don't know why we have to go find this information ourselves. The book that we're talking about this week, I keep having kind of new people join, so I want to make sure you know what's going on, is Taking Charge of Your Fertility. This book is fantastic. It looks big, you guys. It reads like you're reading one of your best friend's blogs. She tells stories. She talks about fun things like sperm count. No, but, and I mean, there's plenty of like good sex talk in here. It's a fun book though. And I think the whole time I was reading it, I was like, oh, okay. This makes so much sense. Like, this, I love this, And so, one thing that I always tell my friends, I'm like, well, have you ever checked your cervix? And they look at me like I'm a crazy person, but you guys, it's part of our body. It's like going like this. It's just up at the end of our vagina. It's like sticking your fingers in your ears, you guys. It's not, but why not know where your cervix is? Why know what position it's in? Something that's so interesting too, if you find that every couple weeks intercourse is really tender, it's probably because your cervix is swung forward and is getting rubbed more than it normally would, or that he's banging into your cervix. So there's things like this that you're like, oh, why not know this about your body? Why not know these things about your body? And so charting really can be the beginning of getting to know your body, getting to know your menstrual cycle, and getting to become an expert on yourself. Like I said, when you go into a doctor's office, when you go into anything, it's so nice to know, oh, this is kind of how things run. It also is so incredibly useful in determining if there is a problem, if problems arise. If you start to get things out of whack, if your cycles start to get off, if things start to stretch out more, and then too, for me, it's like, either something's wrong or I am way more stressed out than I thought, and maybe I do need to start becoming more respectful of my sleep. Or, maybe self-care needs to be something that I pay more attention to. Or what's my exercise program doing to me right now? I mean, your menstrual cycle and your health really does tie into every aspect of your life. And especially for me as a mom, I'm the master key of this family. If I'm completely out of whack and not doing well, everyone else suffers here. And so it's really important for me to be paying attention and taking good care of myself. And I will tell you, just down to very basics, it is so nice to go, I'm going to get my period on Monday, so I'm not wearing white pants that day. If nothing else. Or we are packing to go swimming, or packing to go on a beach vacation next week. I should probably pack my menstrual cup. Like, just real basics. Why fertility charting is worth it is so that you can remember to pack your menstrual cup when you go on your beach vacation, when maybe you would have forgotten before because you're not paying attention to when your last period was, So there's definitely some really, really great benefits to doing this. When it comes to infertility, I cannot sing the praises of this book enough. I have been so very lucky myself personally to not struggle with infertility, really difficult pregnancies, but I don't struggle with getting pregnant. But I've been able to hand this book out to so many people who have, and they've gone, oh, we never talked about my luteal phase with my doctor. I should probably chart that. I should probably find out what, if that's a problem, or if I am having early miscarriages and I don't realize it, or what's going on here and there. I think if you have been trying for a while and you go through this, and it's hard because I know for some people it's just one more thing that will make them crazy, but I would hope that the education that this book has would empower anybody. So my plan as a mom, as soon as my girls are like 14, I feel like it's a lot to lay on them at like 10 or 12, but 14, why not? Why not let them know what's going on with their bodies? Why not let them get to know how to chart and know, and maybe it's not having them chart tons, but I mean, at least have a basic knowledge of what is happening. It is so, so important. Anyway, if you guys have any more questions, please leave them here or go over to the post that I put up earlier today for Jessie. I'm sure she'd be happy to add them to the blog post. But I will be putting that post up probably tomorrow. I'll announce that on my normal feed and probably in stories and let you guys know. But she answered a lot of these questions about fertility awareness, and also why she loves pen and paper charting and why I love it. So anyway, if you guys have any more questions about taking charge of your fertility, pen and paper charting, fertility charting, cervical fluid, feel free to send them my way. I would be more than happy to answer them or get answers for you. Yep, and Jessie says, yes, happy to answer any questions. We really are, you guys. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us. Sorry we were kind of in and out a little bit. Hopefully this all kind of comes together and makes sense if you go back and watch it again. And yeah, I'll see you guys, I believe next week I'll be talking to a really awesome naturopath. So I'll post about that as well in the future. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good night and a good day to you in Australia since it's in the middle of the day tomorrow for you. We'll see you later.